Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us. How are you? How's your week gone since we last talked? Have you had a chance to get out and do anything fun? Have you had a chance to be on the water? Have you been in the woods? Did you take a youth hunter out last weekend? Man, it is full bore, wide open on now, isn't it? The only thing we need now to cooperate is the weather. I mean, it's beautiful weather if it was July, but do we want this in September? I would just like to see a little rain, huh? It's been so dry and so warm, but, you know, the old saying, everybody talks about the weather, but nobody's doing anything about it, and we can't. So all we can do is continue to enjoy our outdoor activities and try to make the most of what Mother Nature throws at us. You know, you get a big wind, you get a warm spell, you get an extraordinary cold, you get rain, you get drought, whatever it is, you just have to deal with it and go out there and have fun. And apparently, a lot of people were having fun this last week because I've had a lot of pictures sent to me to post on my social media outlets. And I welcome that. I want that. I want to share your outdoor adventures with the rest of the world. Now, yes, you can post them, and I know you do, but, you know, maybe if you want to reach a little bit bigger audience or different people and you want me to post pictures, I will be more than happy to do that. Send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Please don't send them to me in a social media message, private message, because if you do, I will respond and say, please email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com so I can share. And this past week, I have been inundated with pictures, and I'm doing my best. By the time you hear this radio show, I should be caught up, but as we're sitting here in the studio, I still have a few more to post, and I think that's wonderful. Most of them pictures from the youth hunt. Oops, I can't call it youth hunt. More on that in just a minute. I love pictures from the Liberty/youth hunt. I love seeing pictures of kids in the outdoors sitting over animals with deer with beautiful, huge smiles on their faces. And one thing I've noticed about these pictures from the youth hunt is I don't see a difference in the size of the smile of a kid sitting over a small doe or a big buck. You know, they don't really seem to care. I think it's the parents who care most, right? And it's the parents who start to instill this desire in this kid, man, you got to go out there and shoot a big buck. And then the kid starts to think, yeah, I got to go out there and shoot a big buck. But if you have taught that kid, if you go out and shoot a big old doe, that's a trophy. The kids, man, to them, a big old doe is a trophy. But every kid I see has a giant smile. I don't care whether they're sitting over a buck or a doe. And also this year, and this is a pleasant surprise, for the first time in all the years I've been posting pictures from the youth hunt, I'm not getting a lot of negative comments from people crying about why are the kids allowed to be out there before the season. And I don't know the exact reason for that. Maybe, you know, some people realize, well, listen, this is the last year they can shoot bucks because next year it's going to be does only, probably. Or maybe the fact that, you know, anybody can go out and shoot a doe this weekend with a rifle legally. Maybe that takes some of the wind out of their sails. You know, why is that kid allowed to go out there before the season? Well, you know what? You can go out there this season with a rifle and shoot a doe if you want. Things have changed. Deer hunting in Michigan has changed. The seasons have changed. The size of the herd has changed. The distribution of the herd has changed. The management of the herd has changed. Let me go back to youth hunt / liberty hunt / independence hunt. I got an email from a guy named Josh, who has been a loyal listener of the show for almost 20 years now. And he pointed something out that I didn't immediately recognize, and he had to actually point it out a couple of times before I got what the gist of his comment was, and it's very valid. He says, Avery, you keep calling it the youth hunt, the youth hunt, the youth hunt. And I do, because that is what the majority of hunters out there, that weekend of the Liberty Hunt, most of them are youth hunters. And I tend to call it the youth hunt because that gets most of the attention. Now, keep in mind that during this Liberty Hunt, which is what last weekend technically was, the youth hunt plus handicapped hunters. And he said, please refer to it as the Liberty Hunt, keeping in mind that folks like him, a disabled vet, can also get out and legally hunt that weekend too. And he says, and he says, when you lump it all in as the youth hunt, he says, a lot of the negative criticism that goes toward the youth hunt ends up falling on us as well. And it took me a little while to wrap my brain around that and realize what he was saying and say, okay, Josh, I get it. That does make sense. So there's the Liberty Hunt, which is youth hunters, 16 and under, plus handicapped hunters, eligible handicapped hunters. And then there's the Independence Hunt coming up later, which is strictly eligible handicapped hunters without a youth season involved in it. So, and that whole concept actually was kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around. I actually, before I got in the studio here, I texted Chad Stewart and said, Chad, help me understand. Make sure I understand this before I go talking about it. So thank you, Chad, for that. And thank you, Josh, for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate that very much. If you have something you want to bring to my attention, if you have a picture you want to share with me, if you have a topic you want to suggest, again, email. Don't send it to me in a social media message. I might not see it. If you send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, I will see it. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Okay, what else is going on? This last week, I got most of the gear off the Angler Quest. It's time to put that boat away. Now you say you're missing a bunch of good fall fishing. I know, but every year I say I'm going to keep the boat in the water because I'm going to fish in the fall, and I never do. So I'm taking gear off it. And listen, if I want to go fishing this fall, I have a lot of friends who said I'm welcome on their boat anytime, and I know they're serious, and I appreciate that. So one interesting thing is I was taking the gear off the boat. I pulled up the seat cushion on the Angler Quest and reached in there to pull out some of my life jackets. Now, a lot of them are stored in a mesh bag just underneath the rocket launcher for easy access if you ever really did, God forbid, need them. And the rest of them are stashed down below in a storage area below the seats in the front. So I lifted up that seat cover, and I start pulling out life jackets, and I grabbed two of my inflatables. And I'm like, these don't look right. What? I don't remember these being fluorescent yellow. And then it dawned on me, oh, they got wet and they popped while they were under the seat. Now, the whole thing about an inflatable is when it senses moisture, a CO2 cartridge blows off and it expands them and makes them life jackets. The rest of the time, it's just like a horseshoe-shaped harness around your neck. I thought, okay, can I repack that? I mean, these were pretty expensive. I didn't just want to have to throw them away. Yes, you can. You can rearm and repack them. So just something to be aware of there. Also, this past week, as I'm getting ready for my bear hunt, as you are hearing this, let me think about this. As you are hearing this show, yes, my bear hunt will be this next week coming up. So I'm getting ready for that. As part of that, I took my Brenton 350 Legend into Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. I had a new scope that I wanted to put on. I put on a longer Vortex scope. And then I also had my first time with a suppressor on this thing. So I took it into Duncan's to get the scope professionally mounted. I had it on there roughly to make sure it was going to fit. and I wanted to sight it in with a suppressor. So I took it downstairs. We put about 5 rounds through that thing, and then it malfunctioned. I couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't pull the charging handle. It didn't do anything. So we took it upstairs to the gunsmith's there and found out there was actually a round that was stuck in the chamber. Now, I'm going to talk more about this after the break, but long story short, and we'll get into details here in a minute, I was shooting federal ammunition, which is fine ammunition, but the back pressure from that suppressor, the federal ammo didn't like that. It switched over to Winchester, and now the thing runs just fine. So to follow up on that, after the break, I'm bringing in Glenn Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City to talk about that scenario, and should you be concerned if you're now running a suppressor on your gun if it's going to screw things up. Then Scott Szfranski of Linwood Beach Marina talking about the great fall walleye fishing, hopefully good perch fishing too, and this process of putting your boat away for the season. Plus Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. In hour number 2, some last-minute bow season preparation suggestions from Tom Nelson of the American Archer. Justin Tomei of MUCC joins me. This week's Ask Avery question deals with hunting, predator hunting after dark with a handicapped hunter and the use of a suppressor. What do you need to be legal to shoot out of a vehicle? Then in our third hour, Northern Michigan hunting guide Vance Gawel on elk hunting and more. Plus, we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm so glad you're with us. Going to be here for 3 hours. I hope you can stick around. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. Rich Krazan and his wife Ellie joined us at the Lumberjack Restaurant for Wednesday Night Live last week. It was so great to see them. Look, I know your food plot planting season is over for the most part right now, right? But don't forget that Killer Food Plots also has a line of scents, and they also do property management as well. So just kind of scents to get you through this hunting season. Then don't forget about getting ready for the seasons coming up. KillerFoodPlots.com, KillerFoodPlots.com. All right, I was telling you a story about how I was sighting in my Brenton 350 Legend. I took it to Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. To have them fine-tune the scope and get it mounted just right. And then I knew I was going to go downstairs because Duncan's has indoor ranges up to 200 yards. So between the new scope being sighted in, plus it was the first time I'd shot the gun with my suppressor, it was my one-stop shop, right? I could go there, get the scope mounted, go downstairs, and dial it in. And then I had the problem. After about 5 rounds, the gun basically jammed. I could pull the charging handle, but nothing happened. Took it upstairs, and it turns out the brass was actually stuck in there, wedged in there. So I thought, this is interesting. Does this mean that just the act of shooting with a suppressor can change things or what? But I do think it points this out, right? This is why I go to Duncan's. If I would have had this problem on some other range, some buddy's range or an outdoor range, I still would have ended up going to Duncan's to get it fixed. By going there in the first place, I was able to take care of the whole process, even with the problems, in one stop. Glenn Duncan's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Glenn, appreciate you joining us, and I appreciate the help of your guys the other day, too.
No, not a problem. Appreciate it. Glad to hear it.
So I wanted to follow up on this. So I had shot that Brenton with the federal ammo before with no problems. Putting the suppressor on, the gun didn't like that federal ammo. Is this something that we as shooters who are now starting to use suppressors need to be aware of? Can it change things that much?
Well, I'm texting back and forth with Federal today. I still got 2 more today from Federal. They don't have a good answer, and I know that Federal is the softest, most match-grade primer of all the industry primers. Okay, and one of your problems was that the primer when in the casing swelled, they let the primer loose, and that was one of the major problems and stuff. So we want to find out, in federal wants to do, that's why I needed to get the numbers off the boxes, everything else, to find more about the lot number that they did, and just to see if there is a problem or not. Now, number two, we've been on the phone with the suppressor companies and stuff to find out if they're seeing this, and they're really not. And what the idea is that everybody thought the pressure's really going to change, that much. But what you've done is added links to the barrel. And adding the link to the barrel just gives it a longer burn rate. And so that normally we say after 16 inches, all the burning of the powder is done. Well, it's not. If you go on our ranges, you'll see unburnt powder out of rifles that are 22 and 24-inch long barrels. So we know it's not burning. So they're trying to decide if the burn rate of that powder they're using is a longer burn rate. And with that extra barrel, that length of barrel, that's all we're thinking about it, looking at it that way, that it actually burned hot, a little bit hotter. And so they're right now studying it to make sure what that, and they're getting with Breton on the because it's a 450 on a 350, and that should be not a problem a bit. That's pretty common.
It's a 450. I want to make sure it's a 450 can
Yep.
on a 350 Legend. Yep, but it's a multi-cal,
Right.
So you can use it for anything smaller than 450. Correct?
Right. And that's the idea, that instead of buying a whole bunch of them, you buy one and be able to use it in a lot of different varieties.
Yeah.
And but then when you went to Winchester, and I'm glad to say the names, is that with Winchester working it, Winchester has a harder primer. It's the hardest primer on the market. So if you had a gun that the firing pin was really light hitting and stuff, you would never want to use a Winchester primer because it's so hard a primer, where the Federal's so soft. And so we're looking at the hardness of the primers is a little bit, but it doesn't matter. I want that match grade, that good grade primer, so it burns faster, starts faster than a Winchester is. And so it's a battle yet, and I don't have a good answer for you yet. But my biggest thing is I was glad that it happened so we could go and do the homework to find out for the next guy. And so whenever people have problems with the ammo and stuff like that, I'm on the phone right away with the companies, shipping them numbers, shipping them all kinds of stuff. So the ammo manufacturer know that there's something going on with their ammo. And it's important that they do know that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if I would have done this on a buddy's range or just some public range outside, I would have had no idea what's going on, and I would have ended up bringing the gun into you guys anyway. So the fact that we were able to take care of it right there all in one place was, I think it says a lot about you guys, Glenn.
Well, and we tried, and that's why we put the 200-yard range in so that people could go and trust their gun. And the idea with their gun and stuff, and we've talked about in the past, you need to not, the day before season, go out and shoot your gun a couple shots and say, I'm ready. And make sure that the ammo and your gun match together. A lot of people thought for years, if I have a Remington gun, I'm going to shoot Remington ammo. If I had a Winchester gun, I'm going to shoot Winchester ammo. And we all know anymore that's not true. The way the guns are built and the way the barrels are made and stuff, that one brand works better than your gun. And it could be you bought two, I'm going to say two of the Bretons, and one's going to shoot better with the one ammo, and one's going to shoot better with another ammo.
Well, the reason I had that Federal ammo is the guys from Brenton says, here's what we recommend. Here's what we've had the best luck with.
Yeah, and that's what you really want. That's a great start, and but we still want to make sure that everything is working properly.
So listen, should I be somehow feeling that I'm not getting the best performance by shooting the Winchester ammo? And I'll preface it like this: so I've got this gun zeroed in at 100 now on your range downstairs. I got a Vortex BDC reticle, where I can it tells me what my yardages are. So just for the heck of it, we zeroed it at 100, went on your 200-yard range, and I lifted it up to the second reticle, which is supposed to be roughly 200 yards, and it's dead on. So if I'm getting that kind of performance out of a 350 with Winchester, I mean, I'm inclined just to call it good, Glenn.
I would quit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I love your money. Let's shoot more ammo, but as long as you're getting that kind of group and stuff, and the results are great. And then the other thing is now is that when you get a deer, we want to go we want to see how the round actually worked and function, and because that's important too. That if you got a bullet that your gun doesn't like as a bullet, and for hunting it's not a good hunting bullet, then that's another answer. But when you got a good group, take it.
Well, and a bigger part of this thing too is the whole suppressor issue. I think you would be obviously an expert on this, but I've got to believe you guys are going to see more suppressors coming into your range there because, for one thing, the prices are coming down a little bit. The availability, the turnaround time from the feds is so much quicker. And as I was talking about this whole suppressor issue on a live stream before the show, some of the guys who are shooting ARs for years said, hey, an adjustable gas block will solve that problem because you can adjust it to compensate for the suppressor. Is there any merit to that, Glenn?
Yes, there is. And I talked to our guys and stuff, and they agree that adjustable, because again, you're shooting all different kinds of ammo and the burn rate of all different powders and stuff are so much different from every brand of ammo. It really would help that being able to adjust it. We just had a guy this morning with a 10 millimeter. One brand of ammo will work and the other brand won't. And just the burn rates and stuff, it really does affect how a gun works. Is an adjustable gas block, is that a user adjustable thing, or does it have to be done by a gunsmith? No, it's you guys can do it, and a lot of people want us to do it. And the best thing is, I mean, when you're down on the range and stuff, it's easier for us to do it on the range and stuff and work with you. So if for some reason I wanted to go back to that federal, if I was married to that or whatever, or had a partnership with them, and I needed to shoot federal, if I was to put an adjustable gas block in there, you think we could tune it and get that federal to work? We should be able to, but I want to still check on the brass and the ammo itself right from federal to make sure that there's something not going on. Yeah. And right now, every branded company this year, it seems like we've had a recall from Norma, from Federal, from Hornady. It's not uncommon. Getting powder right now is really hard, and getting good brass is kind of hard right now. Powder comes from overseas, and we used to have 10, on the back of a ship, there would be 10 cargo boxes of powder, and now they're down to one cargo and box per ship coming across. And so our amount of powder is so low. I thought we were past all these supply issues. We're not, and the powder is number one right now. Primers we're doing good, pretty good on right now, but powder, all of our powder comes on a finished ship from Denmark and comes to the United States. And we were allowed 10 cargo, or whatever they call those big boxes. And this year they said, no, we're only going to allow you one on each ship right now. So 10%, 10% of the supply. So Glenn, real quick before I let you go, I let you go there, I think your range is very unique. I think it's the only 200-yard range, indoor range open to the public in the country. Can anybody come in there and shoot, Glenn? Anybody. And one of the new things, right now we're getting closer to Jersey, and so it's going to be, we bought the newest Garmin rangefinder. So if you're working with the dials and you need to get your gun chronographed so you can get the dials made, we bought the newest system that gives us the more accurate reading, and so we can get you the dials for if you're shooting a Leopold or something that's got the dials that needs to know what the chronographing of your gun is. We have the ability now to do the newer system. All right, Glenn, appreciate that again. Thanks for your help the other day. Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City, the website duncansoutdoor.com, duncansoutdoor.com. Glenn, we'll talk again soon. Thank you. Have a good day. You as well. Glenn Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. I knew that it couldn't be just me who was dealing with that. And you think about it, you put a 6-inch suppressor on the end of a barrel, it is going to change things. And if your tolerances or whatever were, not the tolerance of the gun, but just the whole interaction, if you were just on the edge, that could put you over the top. And I think that's what it did with that federal ammo. But the Winchester runs great, and that's what I'm going to stick with. And hopefully that's what I'm going to shoot a bear with in the UP here coming up in the next week.
You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins, Michigan-based family-owned Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Company owner Paul Perone has come up with a great idea. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set that's warm, weather-resistant, wind-resistant, water-resistant, and then snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern, and you can do that in less than a minute. The website is versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. You can also find them on Amazon. Do a search for Versa Skins brand on Amazon. Right now, I want to turn our attention to Linwood Beach Marina on Saginaw Bay. Now, I've worked with Linwood Beach for a long time. As I say each week, they're great people, great facilities, great location. And this is the time of year when you just might want their services more than ever. Maybe you don't want to think about it. Maybe you're a hardcore angler. Maybe you're going to be fishing right on until the ice comes. But there are a lot of people who are getting ready to put their boats away. And the way you do that is important. With us to talk more about that, Scott Szfranski of Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Scott, welcome back. How you doing?
Hey, good, Mike. How are you?
Good. Before we get into the topic at hand, let's talk a little bit about fall fishing. Are folks getting any perch out there right now?
Yeah, we got a deep water bite out by the channel, by the shipping channel. That's been pretty consistent. And the walleye fishing's been holding its own, Mike. So, no complaints. And the walleye fishing will come back, but the perch fishing, I can say the last couple of weeks is it's definitely been worth going. And just got to find yourself some good shiners. You know, sometimes those are in short supply this time of year. That fishing's been pretty good. Hard to believe September. I mean, today our water temperature here, surface temperature's out on the bay, 72 degrees. So it's summer's holding on.
Well, it is, and you say walleye good right now too, and that's going to get nothing but better as the fall goes on.
Yeah, right now the fish are they're a little bit north of the marina, so you got to go a little ways to find them. But that will change, you know, as we get into October and November, and you know nowadays even December and January. So the further we get into fall, winter, the more south these fish are they'll be right out front here in the next 45 to 60 days, I would hope.
And the big question is, are you going to get ice? Right, that's one thing that has been lacking here the last few years, but there's nothing we can do about that.
Not really, but you would think that we can only dodge it so many years, Mike, and we've had two of basically zero offshore ice fishing, and which is hard to believe. So, we're gonna, we'll adapt. You always do.
You always do.
It will be awesome if we don't. The boats will be running.
There you go. And though, look, I know there are a lot of people going to stay out there till the bitter end, but there's also a big percentage of people who their fishing season is coming to an end because they're going to turn their attention to hunting. So for a lot of people, it's time to start thinking about putting the boat away. We could do that on our own, but I think there are a lot of benefits to bring to somebody like you, Scott.
Yeah, I think the big benefit to, bringing it to a certified technician, certified dealer is, we can look for stuff that you wouldn't normally look for. I mean, but, number one, I mean, and I'm going to concentrate on 4-stroke outboards here, Mike, I mean, because that's basically the market nowadays, is the fuel system. We got to get this treat the fuel with marine fuel stabilizer. I mean, any fuel that's left untreated will begin to oxidize, and that's just not good. So it's a good idea to use ethanol-free fuel throughout the season anyway, and that's a good start. So, and there's little things that we do. I mean, we run we run treated fuel through the entire fuel system for about 10 minutes when we're winterizing. So that protects the whole system, not just the gas that's in the tank.
And if we bring it to somebody like you, if something goes wrong, it's your fault. If we do it at home and something goes wrong, guess whose fault that is? Yeah.
I mean, and again, doing it yourself, I mean, can be for some people that's the that's what they want to do, and we're here for advice when it comes to that as well.
Sure.
But certainly we're more than happy to take on the task for you and do it right.
Do you shrink wrap too, Scott?
Yeah, we shrink wrap. Shrink wrap nowadays, runs about $12 a linear foot, and that's that shrink wrap goes a long way in protecting a person's the canvas that they use for a mooring cover or a travel cover during the summer. I mean, normally we suggest just getting that treated with a waterproof treatment, folding it up, putting it away, and putting the shrink over the top of the boat.
Well, Scott, you're going to see my angler quest here pretty soon. I'm done for the season. If I'm going to fish this fall, I got buddies who are still there at the marina all season long that I can fish with. I trust you guys, and I recommend you, and I think you do a great job. So I appreciate your time, Scott.
Yep. The other thing, just, changing oil and gear lube change, that's the other important thing with those outboards, Mike. So bring it on in, and we'll get it taken care of.
Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. They're right on Saginaw Bay, right in the heart of the fishing grounds. Great facilities, great people, and great service. linwoodbeachmarina.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to check in with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. He's probably still on a high from their big outdoor weekend. I was down there for that, and for the first time in years, it wasn't hot. Well, now it's hot. Anyway, and coming up in hour number 2, Tom Nelson of the American Archer getting us ready for bow season, Justin Tomei of MUCC, and this week's Ask Avery question. Lots more coming up. Stay with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY 1240 AM, 100.7 FM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's our nature and your nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. I looked out the window the other day and the Reader guys were there aerating the lawn, taking those plugs out of the lawn. There's so many things they can do this time of year. They got fall cleanup, they got fall pruning, and don't forget about their fall containers. They can deliver them right to your house. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Hardworking crews, conscientious, good people at readerlandscaping.com. I think hardworking, good people, conscientious, just described also the folks at Woods-n-Waternews. I was at their big outdoor weekend a couple of weeks ago. I stopped by on Friday afternoon, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't hot, it wasn't raining, it was kind of chilly, it was kind of windy. Remember those days? Remember when it used to be chilly and windy? They'll come back. Tom Campbell, one of the guys behind Woods-n-Waternews, with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, when I was there, the show had just opened, and you were already welcoming hundreds, if not thousands of people to the show, and it looked like it was going to be a big success. But how did it go from your perspective?
It did, Mike. It was a great success for us. We're really pleased with all the turnout. We're excited about the vendors that we had. I know you saw them too. It was a great showing for vendors, and the showgoers came and they enjoyed it. And that's kind of how we judge everything: is are the vendors happy? Are the showgoers happy? That's success for us then. And like you said, the weather turned for us perfectly. We battled that wind, but the cool temperature sure did make it feel like fall and hunting season was here, even though that temperature changed right away. But yeah, so we got it right in that gap. We got that cool front that hit perfect, and it helped us out. And I think everything went real well. We're real excited, and we appreciate the help you gave us on that too.
Well, I've always told you guys, you nailed the perfect weekend for an outdoor show. Don't ever give it up because somebody else will grab it.
No.
But that first full weekend after Labor Day is the perfect time to get folks who love the outdoors together. And I saw a bunch of them wandering around, and I saw a lot of my friends that I partner with there as well. So another great show, and it has to be a sigh of relief. But it's now 2 weeks in the rearview mirror. I suspect you've just moved on to other things by now.
Absolutely, Mike. As we speak, that October issue of Woods-n-Waternews should be hitting the newsstand with our distribution, and it's in the mail to all our subscribers. And it's loaded with some great stuff for October. Absolutely fantastic. It's always a time when you can get the big bucks on the cover. You get a lot of combination stories of hunting and fall fishing, because let's face it, some of the best fishing is in the fall.
Yeah.
And of course, our hunting starts in the fall. So it's a great time to be in this business for sure.
And no lack of content. People ask me all the time, how do you fill 3 hours? It was like, man, it's easy. How do you guys fill whatever it is, 100 pages or something? It's easy when you live in a state like Michigan.
Right. Exactly right. It gets hard at times. You get so much. Yes, it's fantastic. Yeah, we love it, and we like I said, that October issue is always a fun one to do because you get both, and everybody's excited to do both. So,
if you get a month where there's just a whole bunch of extra stuff, can you just add more pages, or are you limited to a certain range of pages for the magazine?
What really is it's all about advertising and paid advertising and how much advertising space we have. They're the ones that are helping to pay that printing bill, and so that kind of dictates how far we can go. But we certainly stretch it out at this time of the year when we got more readers and people looking for more information. And like I said, when you've got two big topics going on, I mean, with all the hunting and all the fishing going on, we definitely have to stretch it out and give our readers more, and that's what we love to do.
And how, we've talked about this before, but I want to follow up. The digital version of your magazine, how is that going? Because I'm an old guy, and I would just as soon look at something online, but I think I'm in the minority.
Well, Mike, what we're finding now is it's a great a double up. It's a great combo option now. We give a real discount for $35. You can get mailed and online. So what's happening, what we're seeing is the online versions are always a great, where'd I put my woods and water? Oh, I'll just go online and look up that story.
Yeah.
So it's a great backup for us, for us guys that leave it in our backpack, or we left it in the other bathroom, or we left it in the bedroom, or wherever we left it.
Yeah.
So you always gotta back up, and you can always just go to our Woods and Water News weekend, or not weekend. .net or out .com, and you can pull up your copy and see the stories right there on your computer, on your phone, whatever you prefer. So it's a good combination. Is it a standalone yet? Probably not quite, but it's a great deal, and we encourage everybody to go online. They can see a few stories, a few copies, and see if they like it that way too.
Well, and you were struggling with the website. You're the guy who told me don't give websites anymore because people just Google it.
I know. People Google it. Exactly right, Mike.
Well, I'm going to give the website. I'm going to give the website woods-n-waternews.com. Thank you, Tom Campbell. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. Again, that website, woods-n-waternews.com. I get what Tom's saying. A lot of the people in his office were saying, don't give websites, just tell people to Google us. And that's what most people do, right? But I routinely do give websites or social media destinations. For example, my website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. But if you just Google Mike Avery Outdoors, you'll end up there too. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Tom Nelson of the American Archer, Justin Tomei of MUCC, and Corporal Ken Lowell of the Michigan DNR.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And as I say every week, I do believe the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station. For one thing, my broadcast partners, the radio stations, get the content of the show before the podcast version of the show is uploaded. But yes, of course, I do have a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. I have a podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine show that's it's the same content as the broadcast version. It's just available at a later time and at a different place, different places. Like you listen to the radio show on your local radio station. You listen to the podcast version of the show on several outlets online, including my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, yada, yada. You get it, the whole gamut, right? Anywhere you can hear a podcast, there's a real good chance you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I also do podcasts that are specific for a few of my broadcast partners. They don't air, for advertising partners, they don't air on broadcast. They are just podcasts. I do one for Offshore Tackle. I do one for Angler Quest Boats, and I do one for Primal Outdoors each month, so keep an ear out for those. Regardless of how you are hearing my voice, when you are hearing my voice, what you are doing while you are hearing my voice, thank you. I do certainly appreciate it. I've been doing this a long time, and I would not be able to continue to do it without your support, and it does mean a lot to me. You know, I've done a lot of things in the broadcast world throughout my career. Started out in television news, then ended up doing outdoor television, these days outdoor radio. I had a television show, Outdoor Magazine, for a long time, and like 20 years I was in outdoor television. But it got to the point that for me, it didn't make sense anymore, and I stepped away from it. There is a lot of work that goes into outdoor television. For example, this 3-hour radio show, I can do the show in 3 hours. Now, yes, there is some prep time ahead of time, and there is some editing and such. Now, we don't edit the show, but I edit it down for the podcast and stuff. But it doesn't take 40 hours, I'm telling you right now, to do the radio show. Whereas if you do a half-hour TV show, it might take 60 hours to do that. So I have much respect for people who are in the world of outdoor television and have been able to survive and do it in a positive, professional manner. And that's what Tom Nelson has done with the American Archer. He is a Michigan-based guy, based here in Michigan, a bow hunter all of his life, and he's with us now to help us get ready, some last-minute prep for this upcoming bow season. Tom, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good, Mike, and thank you for the kind words. And let me return the favor by saying congratulations to you for surviving 40 years in the outdoor industry. I mean, that's one heck of an accomplishment, and kudos to you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And Tom, it was nice. As an aside, it was really nice to see you in Grayling a few weeks ago for the unveiling of the Fred Bear statue. What a wonderful event that was.
Oh my gosh! And I had no idea what to expect as far as crowd-wise and such. It was a chilly day, and I was absolutely amazed at the turnout. What a great event and a great turnout for sure. And it was great seeing you, Mike.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing. I thought, well, there'll be a couple hundred people there. Man, was I surprised. But it just shows how big this archery spirit is. Bear archery, I mean, we live in a state of hunters, and there are a lot of bow hunters in this state.
Oh, boy, yes.
Why are you a bow hunter, Tom? Why don't you pick up a rifle? It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't
it? Yeah, at times, yes. Mike, I read an article in Outdoor Life magazine many, many years ago when I was just a youngster, probably 12 or 13, and it was I hope I pronounced his name correctly, G. Howard Gillian. He wrote for Outdoor Life magazine, but he wrote an archery column in there, and I would pick up that magazine whenever I had a few spare dollars in my pocket at the drugstore in town, and I just was intrigued by the thought of hunting with a bow and arrow. And I was very blessed to grow up just a few miles from Anderson Archery, which a lot of the individuals such as yourself that have been around for a long time remember back in Grand Ledge, Michigan. Sure. And I could ride my bike to the place. And the first time I went in there and looked at that giant polar bear and brown bear and all the bows, I became an archery addict that very moment. I knew this was my calling, and I saved up my lawn mowing money and my hay baling money, and I bought a Red Wing Hunter stick bow and some fiberglass arrows, and I thought I was a bow hunter, but little did I know at the time I had a lot to learn. But I just was, again, enamored with it and became a very passionate bow hunter right off the bat, and continue to this day. Just never, I do a little gun hunting for waterfowl when I get an invite. I love doing that, but otherwise I strictly hunt everything with a bow and arrow.
Not just here in Michigan, though, right? I mean, your adventures have taken you a lot of cool places.
Yes, Europe, Africa 5 times, the Arctic, Mexico, New Zealand, throughout every province in Canada. So I've been very, very blessed, along with, I think I've hunted 27 states in the U.S. For some species or another. So again, I've been very, very blessed, very fortunate.
What did you bow hunt in Europe for?
We hunted roe deer and European boar. It was really interesting. We stayed in Germany, and which you cannot bow hunt in Germany unless getting a hunting license is crazy. It takes 5 years of studying to and being an apprentice before you can hunt. It makes it very difficult. So there's a low number of hunters in Germany. But we would drive across the Rhine every day and hunt in France, bow hunt in France, and it was marvelous hunting. I mean, there was quite a few roe deer, lots of pigs, and we had no issues at all as far as they welcomed bow hunters. So that was a great time, and it's one of my fondest hunts that I've been on was over there. People were great, and the hunting was fantastic.
And what did you bow hunt for in the Arctic?
Muskox.
Oh, you
I've
did?
hunted muskox, and yes, and in March when it was 50, 40 below every day, coldest I've ever been in my life. Ate raw fish and bannock bread that tasted like drywall. It was, I think I lost, if I remember right, 11 pounds in a week up there.
You don't have 11 pounds to lose, buddy.
I don't, and that was it too. I was hungry all the time.
So suffice to say, then, bow hunting has been your choice of lifestyle. Has been a good ride. I mean, it's not over yet, but it's been a good ride.
Mike, it has. Again, I use the term. I've been very blessed, and I have. I mean, I've been employed within the archery industry since I was 16. I mean, that's all I've ever known, and been very fortunate. And you know better than anybody how difficult the business is, whether it's outdoor television or radio. Anytime you make your living in the outdoors, people, for some reason, they think all you do is hunt and enjoy life, and that you really don't have a job. Even my own dad used to say, he acted like I didn't have a real job, that I was just out hunting and stuff. But, it's a tough way to make a living. You have to be very fortunate to get by, and I, as I said, I've been very, very blessed to this point, and it's been a great ride. So
how did this passion for bow hunting turn into a job, turn into hosting a TV show?
Well, I was working. I was sales manager at Anderson Archery, doing a lot out of state hunting just on my own. I went to Colorado every fall for elk. Hunted for bear pretty hard every spring, amongst other hunts that I'd mix in, for pronghorn, just western hunts mostly. And one day, just honestly out of the blue, Tom Nichols, who is now the chief editor, president of Wolf Creek Productions and stuff, and a couple guys came in the shop and asked if they could use the backdrop, the big stone fireplace, the polar bear and stuff, to shoot some openers for some of the TV shows they were working on for the Outdoor Channel. And at that point, the Outdoor Channel was in its infancy. I mean, brand new. Nobody knew anything about it. And they came out a couple times and used the backdrop for shooting some B-roll, as we call it, and openers. And they asked me on one of their visits, they said, hey, the Outdoor Channel really wants to get some bow hunting programming on the network. Would you be interested in doing that? You seem to have a good personality for it, and you're already hunting a bunch. And I said, no, hard enough without a cameraman. But Mike, I turned them down twice. Twice they came back and tried to convince me, and I thought, nah, I don't want to do it. But it was just funny how things work out. Beth and I were considering buying a farm and we were trying to financially figure out how we could do it. And they came back, talked to me again, and I talked to my wife, Beth, and said, if we juggled this, if I did both these jobs, we could probably make the payments on the farm. Make a long story short, I said, yes, I'll do it. And the rest is all history. I worked 12 more months at the archery and retired from there and just did the TV show full time.
When things are supposed to work out, they work out. We're talking with Tom Nelson of The American Archer, the website, theamericanarcher.com, theamericanarcher.com. When we come back after the break, we'll finally get to the topic at hand. Last minute prep for bow season right here in the great state of Michigan. Coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. If I make this sound right here. Oh, that wasn't a good one. How about this sound right here? You know by now what that is, right? That is the sound of me pulling my Rapid River knife out of my pocket and locking it back open. You know I've got a Rapid River knife in my pocket because I always have a Rapid River knife in my pocket. I think a knife is one of the most valuable tools somebody who loves the outdoors can have. You use them every day. You're not cleaning fish or you're gutting a deer every day, but you're going to use a knife every day for opening packages or whatever. I honestly use my knife every day. So why not carry a piece of gear that is handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula? And that's what Rapid River Knives is. I would strongly encourage you, if you get the chance, to go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. It is a destination. If you live downstate, it's worth the drive. Go to the showroom, check it out, watch them make knives, buy a knife. They can engrave it right there in front of you. If you use the promo code Avery10, you'll get 10% off. Now, if you can't get up to the showroom, go to the new website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. rapidriverknifeworks.com. Use that same promo code Avery10 and get 10% off on your order. Rapid River Knives, a great family-owned, Michigan-based company. You know I love that. I have learned over the years, my sweet spot for advertising partners is not the big corporate conglomerates where marketing people come and go. It is the smaller companies with a great reputation, family-owned, Michigan-based, and that's what I like to work with. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Tom Nelson of the American Archer, almost said Tom Campbell. Tom Nelson of the American Archer has proven that he knows what's going on, too, not just from a business perspective by keeping the American Archer TV show on TV for so many years, but being so successful in the field on his bow hunts. So, Tom, it seems like, here at the last minute, we should be, as bow hunters, we should be ready to rock, but we never quite are. Give us some last-minute advice to make sure we're ready for this opener coming up here in Michigan.
Mike, that's such a true statement also. I always pride myself on, having everything done, all the prep work, all that preseason stuff done by Labor Day weekend. That's always my goal. I want all my tree stands up, cameras in place, shooting lanes cleared, but there's always something that's neglected or you miss, or at last minute you decide, gosh darn it, I am going to hang a tree stand, at the end of the woods there or something. It just happens. It just does. And but right now, as bow hunters, we should be 90% done. I mean, if there's a time to stay out of the woods, these days prior, these last days of September, good time to do your scouting from afar and let those deer all stay calm and then hold that surprise party for them when you first climb in there. But again, right now is the time, like as we speak, my camo clothes have been washed. They're all out on the line. They're outdoors hanging in the breeze and such. I've got that done. I've got broadheads on all my arrows. If you're shooting, fixed blade broadheads especially, Make sure you shoot them now, that they're shooting in the exact same place your field points have, because it's kind of a fallacy that they might shoot in the same hole. You might be lucky. Your bow might be tuned perfect. Everything might shoot the same, but this is a great time to shoot your broadheads. Make sure they shoot like your field points. If not, make some adjustments. Don't wait till you shoot at a deer to find out things are a little different. But there's all these little things, as I said right now, like the broadheads, airing out your clothes, washing your stuff, making sure everything's set, trimming out a trail maybe into your stand. Again, I'd like to stay, if at all possible, I try to stay out of the woods if I can at this point. But as you mentioned, there's oftentimes little things that need to be handled, and you have to go out there. So that's the beauty, too, about cell cameras. I know Primal Outdoors now is making a camera that you don't have to go out and check it, it's a cell camera, and that's so nice that you're not running out checking your chips and you're replacing them and stuff and disturbing your deer. As I said, hold that surprise party.
You talk about a perfectly tuned bow. I feel like that's like the holy grail. It's out there, possibly. It exists, but finding it is really tough.
You're not wrong. You get it. So some people spend I don't want to say a lifetime, but as you mentioned, they go overboard and they're constantly fiddling with their bow, trying to get that perfect bullet hole, trying to get broadheads and field points to shoot exactly the same spot. And that's quite a task, to say the least, and I can say I've had some bows that are really, really close. I've even pulled a couple bows right out of the box and was surprised at how well they shot right from the factory. But they always take some monkeying. And just because your bow shot great last year and was all sighted in and you were punching bullet holes with it, same with your crossbow. You had it all sighted in and such. Make sure you're out there again with broadheads, or at least if you put, and making sure you shoot that and that it's shooting the same as it did when you put it away. And a lot of bow hunters are bad about that. They pull out their bow a week before season and only to find out their string's ratty and needs replacing, which means you're going to have to sight in again, or something on your bow's messed up. So if you haven't done it, let me just say, pull that bow, blow it out of the closet and blow the dust off and get outside and shoot it.
As bow hunters, we all strive to be as proficient and accurate and ethical as we possibly can be. But you make an interesting point, Tom Nelson. You say, look, you got to know when good enough is good enough. I mean, you could chase perfect arrow flight in a bullet hole in your paper target, but, maybe you're better off in some cases to get it as good as you can, then move on to something else.
Yeah, and Mike, as I said, you can fiddle with your bow continuously. And I know guys right in my own archery club that they're obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're constantly, they'll shoot an errant arrow, have an arrow shoot off a little bit. They don't blame themselves. Oh, it's the bow, and then they start tinkering and moving their sight.
It's never my fault.
No. And Mike, it happens all the time. I see it all the time. If I'm out shooting, all of a sudden things get a little off or whatever, 99.9% of the time it's me. And I just put my stuff away. If you start shooting crappy, don't try to start adjusting equipment at that point. Put it away, blame yourself, put it away, and then take it out again tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, magically, you're both shooting fine again. But the worst thing you can do is if it's working well and you start tinkering. It's just, I get my stuff as close as I can. As you said, you got to know when to call it good. And when I'm satisfied that I can make an ethical, clean shot and my accuracy is good, and every bow hunter is different. Every archer is different as far as their effective kill range. Some guys, especially traditional archers, they limit everything to 20 yards. I don't shoot over 20 yards. Other guys, shooting a compound might feel good out to 40, 50. It's not for me to tell you how far you can shoot, but you have to realize, you have an effective kill range. And in my personally, like at whitetails, I won't shoot at a deer over 40 yards. That's I practice farther than that, and I can shoot pretty damn good at 50, 60 yards, but I just don't take that shot. I don't. I've turned down a lot of nice bucks out there at 50, 60 yards just because that margin for error or a slight movement on the deer can make the difference between a wound and a kill shot.
How many arrows will you throw in a day this time of year? Shoot.
Okay, good question. Now, a month ago, I would have told you probably on average when I go out and shoot 50 arrows, probably would ever. But this past month, when I go out, I do a lot of one arrow practice. I take my bow, I tell myself, okay, this is your one and only shot you're going to get this whole year. There's your deer, make it count. No warming up, which, you don't get a chance to when you're in the tree stand. You're not flinging a bunch of arrows to get ready when that buck appears. So I draw back, concentrate, put that pressure on myself, and touch it off. And I don't shoot another arrow. I go pull that arrow, put it away, and my bow hangs in the garage, so I got to walk past it all the time. So I'll grab it throughout the day and shoot one arrow and put that pressure on me. No warming up. No, that arrow's to the left. I'm going to shoot a few more and get it in there. And I think it makes you concentrate more. And I firmly believe it makes me a better bow hunter and a better prepared bow hunter when that shot presents itself.
I like that advice, Tom. I like that a lot. You mentioned broadheads earlier. Boy, that is there any more personal or intimate decision between a bow hunter and his gear than what broadhead you're going to shoot?
Oh, so true, Mike. And I've seen more, I don't want to say fights, I'm going to say arguments and debates over broadheads than bows or arrows, what arrow you're shooting, between archers I'm talking. What is the best broadhead? For you can whip off X broadhead as far as naming something, and the guy next to you will say, oh, my God, no, I tried those, they're worthless, and if a bow hunter, the worst thing is if they have a bad experience with it. When I say bad experience, perhaps they wounded a deer. It's not their fault. It's the broadhead's fault. I shot this deer with XYZ broadhead and, had a terrible blood trail, never found it. And I know I killed that deer, which normally isn't the case, but they blame it on the broadhead. But, we are blessed in today's bow hunting world with some fantastic broadheads out there. I mean, they've come a long way, Mike, since you and I were shooting bear razor heads and Suwiki deltas and Eskimo, didn't have a lot of choices, and they've come a long way, But for every guy that loves expandables, another person hates them. So to answer your question, we've come a long way, but it still is a very debatable subject. What is the best?
Oh yeah, and it's a conversation that you'll never win that argument, and I don't want to win that argument. It's not my goal to try to convince somebody what to shoot, but I have learned over the years, Tom, and I've hunted with a recurve, I've hunted with a compound. These days I use a crossbow, and those days going back to a recurve was the most beautiful, basic, instinctive, clean, pure hunting I've ever done. I loved it tremendously. I didn't shoot enough to be proficient enough to be comfortable, so I walked away from it. But archery in general, even with a crossbow these days, it is such a beautiful sport. I absolutely love it, and I know you do too.
Oh, there's nothing better. The time of the year, all the factors combined make it for the ultimate outdoor experience, as far as I'm concerned.
Tom Nelson, always a pleasure. You're a great guy. I encourage people to check out the show. Check out the website, theamericanarcher.com, theamericanarcher.com. You have a wonderful season, and you and I will talk again.
Always a pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
Pleasure's mine. Tom Nelson of The American Archer, theamericanarcher.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Justin Tomei of MUCC, he says the legislature's kind of slow right now, but he just went to a trappers school, conference, convention. So let's learn about that and what else is on Justin's mind after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Tawas, WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. I had Scott Szfranski of Linwood Beach on the show in the first hour talking about the great fall walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay that's going to get nothing but better. And he says the perch fishing is actually pretty good, too. Linwood Beach Marina, your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. If you're looking to pull your boat out and get it ready for the cold season that starts with W, if you're not going to fish in the fall, Linwood Beach can help you out there. If you are a fall angler, you can launch at Linwood Beach and they'll take care of you as well. They're just a full service place. Great facilities, great people. I can't say enough about them. LinwoodBeachMarina.com. You know, some other folks that I think are really great people, and I am proud to partner with, and I support them tremendously. MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. I am a member of that group. Do I agree with everything that MUCC does or tries to do? Of course not. That would be weird if I did. Do I support their mission? Do I support the concept? Do I support the vast majority of things that they're doing and trying to get done? Absolutely. I think they are a great voice for Michigan outdoors men and women. Justin Tomei is their policy guy. Listen, you get Justin off duty and sit down and talk with him and get him talking about politics and policy and getting things done. It's a fascinating conversation. This guy, he loves this kind of stuff that you and I wouldn't be able to function in, but Justin does a great job, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Justin, welcome back. It's interesting, though, when I hear you talk about such things, you truly do have a passion for making things work in that system that is so complicated to many of the rest of us.
I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess.
But this time of year, you say, we were talking earlier, you say there's really not that much going on in Lansing now. Will there be anytime this year, or we wait until next year at this point?
I can give you a better answer on that one on November 6th.
Yeah.
With such slim majorities, they're having trouble, them being the Democrats in this particular instance, they're having trouble getting folks to get their whole 56 there in the House. The Senate is actually doing some stuff today and this week and next. The House isn't really doing much, but depending on the outcome of the November elections, we'll have a clearer picture of what the rest of the legislative session is going to look like in December. Pretty safely, I can say there probably won't be a ton of work in November. They'll come back after the election, maybe work for a week or two, mostly setting up whatever they're going to do in December. And then they'll take their deer hunting, Thanksgiving break and come back in December. And what that looks like yet, it's entirely up in the air depending on what happens in November.
Deer hunting break. How many of them actually hunt, Justin?
A lot of Republicans do, especially the up north. There's a handful of Democrats that do. I say deer hunting break because that's kind of what it was. This is the first time the Democrats have controlled everything in 40 years. But that's partially what it was back in the day. But it's just kind of a fall break is what they say. I think it's technically called.
So what
I go deer hunting during it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. When you said deer hunting break, I'm thinking maybe I'm not giving these guys enough credit. If the majority of them are out there deer hunting, I need to look at them differently. Anyway, what are you doing right now then, Justin?
Well, work's still going on. We're working on trying to line up some things for the lame duck, which is, after the election before the end of the session, because the session ends in December. And then obviously the commission's still meeting, commission's still working, but I just got back from some professional development, we'll call it, where I was fortunate enough to go to Trappers College last week. So I was gone for a whole week learning how to trap and how to be a good steward of trapping.
Oh, I think trapping in some ways is a lost art form. I think it has so much history and tradition in our state. Tell me more about this.
I thought the same thing. I've always thought kind of trappers were the ultimate woodsman because you get to take a critter and you have all the land in the whole world and you get them to step on a 2-inch circle.
Yep.
And I just thought that was fascinating to me, and it was not lost on me when I got my first catch at college. But Trappers College was put on by Fur Takers of America. Amy was sent last year. I was sent this year by the Michigan Trapper and Predator Caller Association because they thought that if I knew, like I had taken Trappers Ed, I knew the words, I knew some of the lingo, I knew how to talk about it. But they thought if I had a working practical knowledge, I would be more effective at my job advocating on behalf of the trappers of Michigan. So I got to learn how to do, at least the basic trapping for coons, possum, coyotes. We did some wolf trapping lessons. But the other half of the school is probably more important, is it teaches you how to be a good steward for trapping. We had in the field instruction, learning how to set traps and catch coyotes or whatever. But then we'd go back and we had 7 hours of lectures in the evening, and it was, this is the way we need to talk about trapping. This is why we trap. This is who trappers are, and this is how we need to talk about it if we want it to continue.
That is a very interesting topic that so many groups like Michigan Wildlife Council is kind of changing their message a little bit, reaching out to hunters and anglers about how we need to portray ourselves in today's world. This is a big deal, so I'm glad to see groups like this moving this direction. I'm happy to hear about your experiences. Justin, I'll look forward to having you here back on the show again, and we'll talk more about what's going on, both in Lansing and beyond, and in your hunting and fishing adventures as well.
All right, thanks, Mike. Look forward to it.
I will as well. Justin Tomei of MUCC, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. There used to be a promo code to save money to join MUCC using my promo code. I quit using it. It's $35 a year. Give them your money. $35. They do a lot with that money. MUCC.org. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question with Corporal Ken Lowell answering a question from a buddy of mine about taking a handicapped hunter out predator hunting in the middle of the night. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM, and you can hear us. Let's go to Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. You know how this works by now. If you have a question that you would like answered that you want me to respond to directly, or you want me to pass along to somebody else, send them to me. Send them to me in an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's exactly what my buddy Scott Gatza did. He could have just texted me, but he sent me an email because that's what I asked. Now, Scott is a hardcore hunter. He's a hardcore bow hunter. But recently his passion has been shifting towards predator hunting. He really loves to predator hunt, and he likes the idea of getting others involved in that sport. So Scott sent me an email. He said, Mike, I would like to take a person that is wheelchair-bound coyote hunting. What kind of permits do I need to get so that he can sit in my vehicle and fire my gun? He says, also, my thermal gun has a suppressor on it. Would he be able to use that in my presence? Now, before the break, I said this was coyote hunting after dark. It may or may not be, but I don't think that's germane to this conversation. So I don't know the answer to this. Again, the question is, he wants to take a person in a wheelchair. How does he do that? Let that person shoot out of his vehicle, and he has a suppressor on his gun. Can that person shoot his gun with a suppressor on it? To answer those questions, Corporal Ken Lowell of the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Ken, welcome back. Always appreciate your time. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing real good. I gave you this question ahead of time, so I'm not surprising you. What's the answer, Ken?
Yeah, good question. Anyone that's wheelchair bound like that, in order to hunt from a motor vehicle, they would have to get a permit for themselves to hunt from a standing motor vehicle. So if he were to go online, he could get a permit for that, and then that would allow him to hunt from his buddy's vehicle for coyotes or whatever he chooses. As far as the suppressor, we obviously can't loan suppressors to anybody, but if the individual has a license to possess a suppressor, they are legal in Michigan, so he's able to use that. And his individual buddy that wants to hunt with him would be able to use that firearm as long as the license holder was with him at the time. And it sounds like he would be if he's riding in his vehicle.
So how do you get this permit that allows you to shoot from a standing vehicle? Is this from the DNR? You get this from your doctor? Or how does this work?
Well, it's a combination. So you go onto the website, the Michigan DNR website, and you can find a link that talks about an application to hunt from a standing motor vehicle. And you're going to fill that out, print it off, fill it out, and then you're going to take it to your licensed physician, and they're going to evaluate, the level of the, disability that you need to. So if you can't get around, you can't walk, and obviously if someone in a wheelchair, they're going to apply. And then they would fill that out, and then that's sent into the DNR. We approve it, and then he would, keep that permit in his possession whenever he's hunting from any motor vehicle, whether it be an ORV or a car, something like that.
So that's not a permit that my buddy needs to get for his vehicle. It's a permit that hunter has to get for themselves, and they carry that permit with them from vehicle to vehicle.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, the suppressor issue, this is interesting. I just got my first suppressor. In fact, I just cited it in the other day. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of these in the field. The hoops you have to jump through to get these things is kind of crazy, although the wait time is getting shorter. But it is important to note, and this is a federal thing, this isn't a DNR thing, but these are licensed to specific individuals, right? As you say, you can't loan these out.
That's correct, yeah. If you apply, and it is quite the rigorous application process, but once you get through it and you get that is your suppressor, and it's only to be used, or kept in your possession. You can't loan it to anybody. It's to be, with you. And like I said, if your buddy wants to come shoot it and you're with them, that's fine. But you can't loan it out and say, hey, take this for a night, check it out, shoot it, whatever, and then bring it back. That's not going to be allowed.
And at first I thought the suppressor was somehow tied to a specific gun. It's not. Like my 450 multi-cal, I can use that on different guns, but I got to carry the paperwork with me, and I have to be the licensed owner. It's interesting. Are you seeing many of these in the field yet?
Personally, I have not seen any yet, but I do know they are growing in popularity for sure. Yep.
Corporal Ken Lowell, always appreciate your time. I know I can reach out to you, and you'll be available and answer these questions, and I appreciate that very much. I'll wish you a wonderful fall, some great seasons, and we'll talk again, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Corporal Ken Lowell. From the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, and again, a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. I work very closely with the folks at Security Credit Union. In fact, they stepped up to sponsor the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp last summer. They sponsored this Ask Avery segment. I partnered with them on the radio show. Really, really good, solid, and a growing organization, and they're growing for a reason. They're growing because they help people, and they want to help you. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. I will take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back for our third and final hour, Vance Gawel talking about elk hunting and more. Then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Yes, indeed. This is Mike Avery, the big guy. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. What a wonderful time of year it is, I mean, all right, it's been a little warm, and it's been a lot dry for many of us. But what a great time of year it is. And it's going to get nothing but better. There are so many things going on in the outdoors right now. I mean, look, I love summertime walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay, but there's something about the fall. There are so many different things that you can do. You can bow hunt, you can bird hunt, you can turkey hunt, you can deer hunt, you can bear hunt, you can elk hunt. There's some great fall fishing. There's so much going on. And I'm ready. I'm ready to take advantage of it as absolutely much as I can. Now, my bear hunt with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, is coming up next week, middle of the week. So that's my number one priority. I was telling a story in the first hour about how I was sighting in my Brenton 350 Legend with a new suppressor on it, and how the pressure from the suppressor changed things and caused me to have to change ammunition. Tom Nelson in our second hour was talking about, if you are a bow hunter, get things dialed in. You should be tweaked and ready to go by now. You got to be prepared. You got to be ready. Look, we as hunters, we owe it to the game that we are pursuing to be as proficient and efficient as we possibly can. If we're going to throw an arrow or pull a trigger and we're going to harvest something, that's a big decision. So we need to be as good at it as we possibly can. I have been blessed to know a lot of really good people, a lot of experts in the outdoor world. And believe me, I would never consider myself an expert, and I would never classify myself as an expert. But I get a chance to talk to a lot of experts. I consider Vance Gawel to be an expert. Vance is a hunting guide in northern Michigan, C&G Guide Service, and he is one of the most respected, certainly elk guides in the state. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Vance, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. So you're an interesting guy, Vance. I mean, you're an ag guy, you're a family guy, and you're a hardcore hunting guy. That's a pretty good combination.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
pretty much sums it up. Okay, Ben, good talking to you, Vance.
Yeah,
See you
that's
later.
it.
Tell me about your guiding adventures. Are you still guiding bear hunters these days?
No, I got rid of my dogs. This would be the second bear season I haven't had dogs. I just didn't have time anymore with farming and agriculture, and that was taken up from July 8th till the end of October. And got two little kids who can't be gone all the time like I used to be. So I hooked up some young guys that were trying to get into cat and bears, and gave them some of my good dogs so the next generation of hound hunters could get rolling. And I've just been really doing elk. Gave up all of my bait spots as well, helping out some friends that had tags this year. So did what I could getting out of that just to get people going in the right direction on that. But I'm just concentrating on mainly elk now.
Well, and you are blessed to live in part of a state where you've got elk. Tell me what that's like to live in elk country. I've seen some beautiful pictures and some beautiful video from you. It's an experience that not many of the rest of us in the state get to enjoy.
It's a lot of fun. I was actually just on a Teams meeting with my boss this morning. He's like, wait a minute, we have elk in Michigan? And I get that a lot. But, yeah, I can pretty much hop in the truck any day and go find something to look at. It's pretty nice for sure.
Isn't that interesting that so many people don't know about our elk herd? I mean, there's 1,000 roughly of those animals up there. They're several hundred pounds. They're majestic. They're beautiful. They bugle. I mean, they're just wonderful. And a lot of people in Michigan don't know we have them.
Yeah, it's I get a lot of people shocked when they find out, especially, from southern Michigan. But, yeah, they're pretty easy to see when you get up in the pigeon, go to the right places.
So if they're easy to see, does that make them easy to hunt?
Not this season. The early season is about as tough as it gets. December is a lot easier than this. We're limited to that zone. It's called X. It surrounds the Pigeon River country, and we cannot go into that. This hunt's kind of trying to eliminate them from areas they don't want them to get them out of the farm country, get them back up into the pigeon. So it's a tough hunt, especially with the weather we've had, but still a lot of fun.
I would think the reason to get them out of the farms is because they can do a lot of damage. I mean, I look at what deer can do. An elk has got to do a lot of damage, and I've heard they really don't care about barbed wire fences. They'll go right through them.
No, they don't. And people would always think, well, they're eating the crops. That's where the issue's coming into play. But also just the compaction. You get 10, 12 animals walking around in fields. Compaction's not a good thing for the soil. goes beyond just the crop damage. So, yeah, we deal with it and try to help out best we can.
Compaction, how big are these critters?
The bull we just killed on Sunday, he was in the 750 range dressed.
Wow.
He was big, really big. Yeah. He was a struggle getting into the truck, that's for sure.
So how do you hunt Michigan elk? Let's talk about the first season right now. In farm fields, do you hunt them like you hunt deer?
No. Well, I take that back. If there's a group of animals consistently hitting the field in the same place, I will set people, but most of the time we're just watching cameras, running roads, looking for tracks, and trying to set up. The first 4 days started on August 27th, so we were hoping for field activity then. I didn't have a lot of it. The main farms that I hunt, they've kind of moved out of them for the last couple of years. So we're running roads and power lines and sand 2 tracks and trying to locate them that way and just trying to set up on them. Second 4 days, it just ended September 13th through the 16th. We're hoping that there's going to be a little bit of rut activity starting. That way you can bugle, early in the morning, locate a bull. Hopefully he's got some cows with him, and then you can work on that if he'll talk back and forth to you. Go, walk in on him and try to get a shot then. But on where I'm at, the rut really isn't fired up. We got a few bulls to talk, but they just wouldn't do it, and we could never really catch up to them because they were too quiet. Third 4 days here at September 27th through the 30th, we're hoping that they should really be communicating and rutting.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that.
That'll make a big difference.
I want to talk more about that rut hunt in a minute because I think that's fascinating. But I want to go back to, hunting them in the ag areas early on. Do they cover a lot of ground? Do they roam a lot? That's why it's hard to pinpoint them sometimes?
Yeah. For instance, right before the first 4 days, I had bulls on camera. Bulls were grouped up, and it would have been the Saturday before opening day. Velvet started hanging in the pictures, dropping off, and those bulls just separated and disappeared. And I had some bulls on a farm that another guide friend of mine actually ended up getting that week, and they were 3-4 miles away where they took them, and they had been on that particular farm. They had left for a month. Huh. I've currently got a 7x7 that is pretty frequent often. He's just really nocturnal, and I've compared pictures with another guide, and he came from Atlanta. It's the same bull, and he, Atlanta to Johannesburg, he roughly walked 16 miles.
Oh my gosh!
Cross country as a crow flies from, and he hasn't seen him this year, and he's at one of my farms now. So
wow.
Yeah, they're not like a deer. I had a bow hunter who was interested in trying to get one with his longbow, and it's really tough because you'll get them coming to the same place a couple of days in a row, and then they're just gone for a long time. Seems like they make a big loop.
Yeah, after the break, I want to talk about your bow hunters' adventures there, too. Now, you said a 7x7, a 6x6, which is 6 on each side, a 12-point. That's a royal, right?
Yeah.
What's a 7x7 called?
I don't even know.
I don't either. Impressive,
big.
Magnificent, big.
Yeah. I mean, we've killed a few 8x8s over the years.
No kidding.
But
wow.
Yeah.
Vance, if somebody, all right, so you're only doing elk hunts. So are you booked up through the late season already too?
Yes.
You are.
We're all
okay.
booked through December, yeah.
Well, that's a good spot to be in. I was going to say, people, well, if you look up BNC Guide Service, you're going to find Vance Gawel, the guy we're talking with right now. I first heard about Vance from, help me out, Vance.
It would have been a hounds and a wolf issue I had.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably.
Oh, it was Gabe, but it was Gabe Van Wormer who first turned me on to you because Gabe was up there running bears with you. But
okay.
I have come to really respect you and find you to be a very, very knowledgeable guy. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, more with Vance Gawel. about elk hunting here in Michigan. I'm not elk hunting, you're not elk hunting, but it sure is cool to hear the stories, and we will coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And you can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and believe me, if he can help me become a licensed charter captain, he can help you get your license as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com. That's pmtcaptains.com. John has classes across the state at different schedules, so I'm sure you can find one that'll work out for you. Again, that's pmtcaptains.com, pmtcaptains.com. When you sign up, tell them I sent you over there, and that'll make everybody very happy. Talking right now with Vance Gawel. Vance is a very well-known, very respected Northern Michigan hunting guide who these days is concentrating exclusively now on elk hunting. But Vance, I've got to ask you, do you miss bear hunting? You think you're going to miss running cats? Did we lose him? I didn't get a text from Vance. I think he didn't. Got disconnected. Yeah, he just texted me. So there's his number, Charlie. All right, we'll call him back. That happens sometimes. We're on cell signals, and we don't, and I wasn't checking my. Yeah, he just about 3 minutes ago he said he got disconnected. So that one's on us. That one's on us. Michigan elk are a very, very interesting critter. They are beautiful, they are magnificent, and they can be very vocal as well. And this is the time of year, if you want to make a trip to the Pigeon River Forest and see these animals, this is the time of year to be doing it. You don't have to have an elk license in your back pocket to be able to do this. Anybody can wander up there and see them. Hey, Vance, I apologize for that, getting you disconnected. I was saying in the introduction that these days you're concentrating exclusively on elk hunting, but do you miss bear hunting at all? You think you're going to miss bobcat hunting either?
I probably miss the dogs more than anything, but I just recently got a Labrador Retriever, so I'm going to dabble in some other dog-related hunting activities here in the future. So,
are you going to make him a tracking dog?
No, I'm going to try some waterfowl. I've never really done that. Kind of a new challenge that I'm interested in, and see what happens with that.
Be careful, because my buddies who hunt waterfowl, they've turned into hardcore. I think it's one of those things that can easily become an addiction.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Let's talk about more about elk now. You mentioned the rut hunt. To me, this is really fascinating to be able to watch those animals, to be able to listen to them bugle, to see them round up harems. You say it's a little bit late this year. Is that probably weather related, you think?
You know what? Last year it was the same way. This last 4 days, heard a few here and there, answered a few times, but it just seems like that last 4 days is the best and really into the heart of it. So it seems common lately anyways.
When they start bugling then, does it turn more into a Western-style hunt? Can you talk to them, go back and forth, and actually call them into you?
Yeah, and that's specifically how we try to get cows, is try to locate some bulls before it gets daylight, and then walk to. We try to split the difference, and if we get them coming to us, great. If they keep talking and we can get closer to them and get on them, even better. So that's what we do. Yeah, on foot.
If you're hunting cows versus bulls, is it completely different?
Not really in the last 4 days, because we're basically hunting the bulls to find the cows. So, it could be a little bit different. The cows were almost non-existent for me here the first 8 days we've had so far. So, the cows is definitely much tougher in the early season. It's the toughest tag out of any of these elk draws.
Now, why is that?
They're just not very visible, pretty nocturnal, keeping the calves in the dark timber and the thick stuff, and they're just harder to get a pattern on them.
Your elk hunters, if I remember right, there's a group that can do first season and there's a second season, or if you get a tag, is it good for any of the seasons?
No, you either get a tag for the early season, 12 days, or the late season in December. Either or.
If you're gonna look, I'll take any elk tag I can get. But if I had my choice, would I want the early season or the late?
I prefer the late season. I like December. Just if we've got snow, which we generally do, except for last year, they just really can't get away from us once we locate them. We're tracking in the snow and just getting on the tracks and following them and cutting them off and all that good stuff. So the snow evens the playing field for sure.
You were telling me about a guy that you had a client who wanted to take, I think it was a bull, with traditional archery tackle. I think it was a longbow. For one, I give that guy a lot of credit. I mean, that would be so cool. Was he able to do it?
Nope, didn't get one with the longbow. We tried the first 4 days, had some really good patterns happening where we hung some sets for him, and he sat a few nights, and it just didn't work. They started moving differently and left altogether some of the spots we were going to do. He sat on a wallow one night that popped up the last 4 days, but then he ended up having a bull in front of him on last Sunday that he couldn't pass it up with the rifle.
Have you ever guided a successful bow hunter before for elk?
No, I have not. I kind of tried to talk him out of it, but I said, you're more than welcome to bring it and we'll try. But, it's pretty risky. I know somebody got one with a compound last year, a really, really good bull, but there's only been a handful throughout the years that have done it. It's tough.
Yeah, that was my question. If anybody's ever even taken one, but you say there've been a few.
Yeah, last year a fella shot one with a compound, and then I believe in the 90s, somebody got one as well, a cow.
So it's a big deal.
Less than 5. Yeah, it's a real big deal. Yes.
What do you recommend? Now, listen, most of us listening to this are never going to get a Michigan elk tag, but we can dream. If I get my elk tag, you as a seasoned elk guide, and I'm going to take a rifle, what should I take? What's the best gun for Michigan elk?
I'm not a huge fan of the 7mm Magnum. I'll start there. We call it the wounded beast. For whatever reason, that bullet just zips through and never has good blood. I've seen a lot of good results from just your standard 30-06. 300 Win Mag, I've seen some really good results from that as well. But I've had some people use some 270s with shot placement is very vital with that. But 30-06, 300 Win Mag, that type, they do a really good job.
What's your average shot going to be lengthwise?
It seems like 150 and under usually, but the one the other day was 316 yards, but he was already spooked and there was some other people around. So, we'll get some longer ones. I've seen some in December hunt where they're out in fields, get out there 400 yards, but it's generally not even close to that.
Well, even that 300-yard shot, I mean, not every hunter could make that. I don't think I could make it.
No, it was a tough shot, but he did good. Got the job done. So, but yeah, that's pretty far. I tell everybody just be good 200 and under, and we should be all set.
So your average hunts then, like, if you're after a bull, are you going to end up spot and stalk that thing eventually, or are you just going to find them out in the field? Or how does this work? I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who actually might get a Michigan elk tag sometime.
So sometimes you just stumble on them, dumb luck. We did, opening night, looked at a bunch of bulls that we were just driving place to place and found them. But I use a lot of technology, a lot of cameras, and I spend a lot of time in the evenings before season. Right now, going up, leading to the last 4 days, just about every night we're out watching them and learning where they're going to be at. So a lot of times, you get lucky and stumble on one. But for like the last bull the other day, I was going to a completely different area. I was literally 40 minutes away from the field we ended up killing that bull in. But I had some intel and a picture showed up, and we changed plans really quick. So that, we got over there in about 30 minutes and parked the trucks and walked in, and were able to find him that way. So a lot of it's on foot. Once in a while, you get lucky and stumble on them. They're on a 2-track, but I would say the majority is a lot of walking.
And they're
that.
just a big, beautiful, majestic animal, aren't they?
Yeah. He was specifically the one on Sunday. Was just, I still have that image in my head when we found him, and he actually had 14 cows with him, and so he wasn't real interested in leaving. But it was pretty nice. The sun was just coming up. There was fog. It was as close to being out west as you could get. So.
Well, I've got a couple of pictures from you, and by the time folks hear this show, I will have posted them on my Facebook page, and they can go back and see what you're talking about. But it's a really cool experience, even if you don't have a tag and somebody wants to see what Michigan elk are like. Vance, I would tell them, go to the Pigeon River area right now for the next couple of weeks and just drive around and wander around and see what you can see, because they're just, once you see a Michigan elk, you'll never forget it.
Yeah, for sure. I take people for rides all the time that I just run into that don't have a tag. So feel free to send me a message on Facebook if you're ever interested in finding them.
And would we find you as Vance Gawel on Facebook, or are you C&G Guide Service?
No, it's just I guess we're still called C&G, but it's just easier to use my name.
Just look for Vance Gawel.
So Vance Gawel, so look up.
All right, Vance, that sounds wonderful. And if I ever get a tag, you're my first call, but don't hold your breath, buddy.
Sounds good.
Thanks. We'll talk to you again. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Vance Gawel. This guy's got, he's probably got more experience with Michigan elk than just about anybody, because he not only sees them as he's hunting them, but he also sees them as he's farming up in that area as well. So how cool is that? We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, a few more things I want to talk about, and then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I think he's doing another goose recipe, although as I think about it now, I actually wish he would have done bear. Maybe I can reach out to him. No, I don't want to change things on Dave. That'll screw him all up. Anyway, we'll either have a bear or goose or something recipe coming up, and lots more coming up here. Stay with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WHTC in Holland. That's 1450 AM. 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us on the east side of the state, WSGW AM and FM. 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. I'm here with Charlie Rood, but I was here with Jonathan Dent. So I don't know. It's like a revolving door there. So, because our crowds in the parking lot didn't know that Charlie was going to be here. Now, listen, John will end up with his own adoring throng of listeners too, right? But he's kind of new at it, so he doesn't have the admirers that Charlie does. Because if the whole show is done by Charlie, they're out there in the parking lot going, Charlie. But since Charlie wasn't in here for the whole show, they didn't know that. So, Charlie, there's nobody out there. They weren't expecting you. Now, I don't want to break your heart, buddy, but there's nobody out there for you, Charlie. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Garber Chevrolet, my friends at Garber Chevy in Linwood, Saginaw, Midland, and Chesaning. You can find them at garberchevrolet.com, garberchevrolet.com. I got my truck. I got a Trail Boss from Garber Chevy. I've gotten in the past several trucks from those folks. They do a great job. I would encourage you, if you're looking for a new vehicle, either a truck or a car, to buy a vehicle or a lease. Now, this is a big deal, right? Because vehicles are not inexpensive these days, and interest rates not real favorable for the most part. So if you want to get the best deal, I think you'd be well worth your time to work with the folks at Garber Chevy. Walk in the door and tell them that Mike Avery sent you. And Mike Avery said that you will give them the best deal possible. And they will do that. They will give you the best deal possible. Garber Chevrolet, Linwood, Saginaw, Midland, and Chesaning, GarberChevrolet.com. So what else here? Okay, so I've got my bear hunt coming up. Oh, I know one thing I want to talk about. I had this written down earlier, and I didn't get a chance to get to it. Have you been inundated by calls from the NRA, the National Rifle Association? I have been. Now, look, I obviously support the NRA. I think they're doing a great job. For many, many years, I was an NRA member. In fact, I was an NRA member, and then I signed up my daughter, who was at University of Michigan at the time. I thought, well, this is kind of fitting. Take a girl who was at a very liberal school and sign her up for the NRA. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And then that same year, I made an additional contribution over and above. So I threw a lot of money at NRA that year because I believed and believe in what they're doing. And from that point on, I started getting phone calls. Hey, we need more money. And you know what? Now it's really kind of alienating me. I am no longer a member of NRA. I support NRA, but I don't give them money anymore. Look, if you need more money from me, and that's fine. If you need that money, charge more for the membership. But then don't keep bothering me. I really resent that, and I won't even answer their phone calls anymore. So is anybody else dealing with that as well? And maybe I shouldn't be like that. Maybe I should say, you know what, they're a good organization, they're doing good things, and I should just put up with them and continue to give them more money. Just, I don't know. What else? Your pictures. I want to see them. Okay? Send them to me in an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And please be aware that in this last week, I have been inundated in a good way. I'm asking for these pictures, and I'm glad to see them. But between the youth hunt / Liberty hunt and the beginning of the bear season, I've had a lot of people send me pictures. And I love that. And I want to share them. Again, send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Don't send them to me in a Facebook message. Because if you send them to me via Facebook, I will return your comment and say, very nice. I'd love to share. Please email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And it's not that I'm trying to be difficult or rude, but a couple of years ago, Facebook made some changes where I used to be able to just do an easy transfer. That's not the right word, but I could take your picture and easily post it. Not these days. I got to jump through too many hoops, so I quit doing it that way. mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. All right, so my bear season starts midweek, next week coming up with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. I have some family obligations that I need to be there for just a couple of days after that. So as much as I love bear hunting and I would love to make my season last for an entire week, the first time I ever drew a Michigan bear tag with Gary Morgan, I had a bear walk by me 45 minutes into the hunt, and I passed it because I didn't want my bear season to be over that quickly. This year, if I do get a bear walk in front of me the first day, I am going to take it. And I've told Johnny, because of my schedule, I'm not holding out for a trophy bear. In fact, anything big enough that it doesn't have milk still on its lips better be ducking, because I'm going to throw some lead from that 350 Legend at it. Hey, I'm just being honest here. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar, and Charlie says he thinks that Dave is actually doing a bear recipe this week. I hope that's the case. My name is Mike Avery. Website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And the email address, I'll tell you again, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. Send me your pictures. Send me your videos. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Remember just a couple of minutes ago, I was saying I was getting inundated by phone calls from NRA asking for money. You'll never guess who called me just before we cracked the mic open for this segment. NRA asking for money. They're doing a great job, right? I mean, I am pro-gun. I am pro-NRA. But when I give you money and then give you more money, don't keep coming back and asking me for money. Oh, now I got another call, but this one's not NRA. Well, let's move along to wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Just a great guy, very knowledgeable when it comes to cooking up fish and wild game, and a really good friend of mine as well. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Real good. Getting ready for a party that we're going to be doing on Friday, so the show will already be aired by the time the party's over.
But it does feel good, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, get back in the kitchen.
Well, what I'm hoping for, because because of this, you weren't able to join us for our last Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack as our guest chef. But I will throw that invitation out to you from now on, Dave, because we'll do more of those at the Lumberjack. And anytime we are there, if you are available, we would love to have you there as our guest chef.
I would love to be there, too. I had a ball the last time. It was great.
Oh, wonderful.
They were death almost, your guests.
Yeah, and Lumberjack is so easy to work with, Emil and Gigi and that whole crew up there. So.
Right.
So I think we're switching over to a bear recipe this week, aren't we, Dave?
Right. We adapted on page 129. We took the braised venison steak, and I've altered it a little bit. And if people want to take notes, or they could just remember it, kind of like a bear pot roast, you know. Mm-hmm. And you could use leg steaks on this. They're pretty tough, so what you're going to do is cook this for a very long time. You need about 3 to 3.5 pounds of larger pieces of bear meat, a couple of large onions diced into stew-sized pieces. Same with celery, four stalks of celery probably. I don't know, maybe 8 carrots cut into large chunks. You need a cup of red wine. Whatever wine you're going to be drinking with this meal, I would suggest to use it for cooking, a nice Burgundy or a Cab or something like that. About 3 cups of water. You're going to need enough water to cover all of this in a pan that you're going to be baking in. You need some beef base. You can use that better bouillon. It really works great. A rutabaga, it's an option though. You don't have to use a rutabaga at all on this if you don't want to, but I like to. It gives it a real unique flavor. A can of diced tomatoes, large can, like a nice a big one, and 4 or 5 potatoes cut into same large chunks, and fresh ground pepper. So you're going to grind pepper all over the meat, and then you're going to flour it and brown it on both sides, and add that to whatever kind of casserole you're going to be using, and then add everything else except for the potatoes. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the water and the wine and bring that up to a boil. Add your beef base so that you get the flavor that you're looking for, okay? And then you're going to pour that over. But if you want this thicker, before you pour it over, after it's nice and hot, thicken it up with some cornstarch to your desired thickness. And, I like it with a little bit of body to it. So I like it a little thick, not overly thick, not like a gravy, but just a nice consistency. And you're going to bake this covered for probably 2 to 3 hours anyways. You start checking it after 2 hours. And if it's getting near done, add the potatoes just about a half an hour before it's finished. And I tell you what, this is a great way to use bear. And bear meat, people say, oh, it's strong and all of that. But to me, bear meat is not. Boy, I've seen some nice pictures of bear on your page there. Boy, that one was really nice.
Pushing 400 pounds. Yeah, what an animal that thing was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so them smaller ones, you wouldn't have to cook it as long. But still, bear is a sauce or a meat that you should put in sauce, liquid. Trying to grill a piece of bear steak is not the greatest thing. Some people might enjoy it, but it's best in a liquid, whether it's stew or a pot roast or anything like this. So,
you also mentioned wine. Now, Dave, I am not a wine drinker, but to me, if I was drinking wine with bear, I just, my very limited experience with wine, I would want something a little more hearty, a little more full-bodied, like a red wine. I couldn't see drinking a white wine with bear.
No. Well, it's up to a personal preference, whatever you want to do. But, you're going to use red wine in this dish. And so if you're going to buy a bottle of red wine, whether a Burgundy would be great for this. I mean, that's really a hearty wine. It's what you're looking for, that hearty flavor. But, you could go for a Cab, something like that. Yeah. Whatever
you put in the dish is probably what you'd be best to drink with the meal.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it really complements one another that way, because you get that good flavor, and then you're having a bottle of wine with it.
I just say have a good cold Guinness and call it good.
Oh, there you go. You could do that. I used to have a recipe that had beer in it.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. All right, listen, David, I got to let you go. We're out of time. But we'll talk to you next week. And how about one more bear? One more bear next week.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
Have a great time. Okay.
Sounds good, but I'll talk to you before then. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason for me to do this show. And I don't know what I would do, right? My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great week, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.